There comes a time not marked by clocks nor measured by calendars, when a person must stop and ask themselves, what am I really looking at? Not with eyes alone, no, but with the soul, with the spirit, with the aching corners of the heart that have longed for light but fed on shadows. In that moment, in that sacred pause between what was and what might be, we are given the most powerful choice to change our focus. And when we do that, when we dare to lift our gaze from despair to possibility, we do not merely change our outlook, we change how we feel. We change how we live. Pain is no stranger to anyone who walks this earth. It whispers in the quiet moments and sometimes screams in the storm. It shows up as betrayal, as loss, as disappointment, as failure that feels final. But it is not the pain alone that carves its initials into our lives. It is what we look at while we are hurting that defines how deep the wound becomes. For what you focus on, you feed, and what you feed grows. A person can be surrounded by beauty, drenched in grace, and still find sorrow if their eyes insist on searching for it. Likewise, someone knee-deep in trial, burdened by struggle, can find strength, even joy, if they choose to seek it. You see, life is a mirror held up not just to what is, but to what we believe about it. And when we change what we believe is worth focusing on, the reflection changes too. There is no denying that darkness exists, no pretending that cruelty hasn't touched some more than others. The world has shown its teeth, but even the deepest night carries stars in its belly. Even the coldest winter carries within it the promise of spring. The trick, the wisdom, the gift, is in knowing where to look. Let me tell you something true: you are not powerless, not ever. The world may have thrown you into the fire, but you were born with water in your spirit. You may have been told you are broken, unworthy, too far gone, but those were lies said by those who could not see your light, or feared it. The truth is, you are magnificent, not because of perfection, but because of your persistence, not because of ease, but because of your endurance. But hear this: you cannot rise while looking down. You cannot soar while staring at the dirt. You cannot become more while obsessing over what you. Change your focus. Change how you feel. The heart is a wild, wise thing. It beats in rhythm with where you send your attention. Feed it bitterness and it grows heavy. Feed it gratitude and it soars. Feed it fear and it trembles. Feed it hope and it dances. There is a quiet miracle waiting inside each person who decides they've had enough of despair. Not the loud kind of miracle, not one that shakes the mountains or splits the sky. No, this miracle is gentle. It comes like morning light, soft but unstoppable. It begins the moment you whisper, I want to see something different. And in that whisper, the soul begins to pivot, from victim to victor, from suffering to strength, from surviving to living. Life will test you. Let that be understood. But tests are not punishments, they are invitations. Invitations to grow, to expand, to find out what you are made of when the usual comforts are stripped away, and when you walk through the fire with your focus on the lessons, not the losses. You do not just survive, you transform. You become the kind of person whose presence changes rooms, whose words heal wounds, whose story inspires others to hold on one more day. But none of this happens without choice. The choice to change what you dwell on. You cannot hold on to the past with both hands and still reach for your future. You cannot focus on what's missing and still feel whole. You must choose again and again to turn your face toward what empowers you, not what paralyzes you. Even in grief, you can focus on the love that made the grief possible. Even in failure, you can focus on the courage it took to try. Even in loneliness, you can focus on the strength it takes to sit with yourself and still find meaning. There is no experience so bleak that it cannot be shifted by changing the angle through which you see it. Let the past inform you, but do not let it define you. Let your scars remind you, but do not let them bind you. You have the right and the responsibility to decide what gets your attention. And what gets your attention shapes your emotion, which shapes your energy, which shapes your life. The world is full of distraction, full of noise and negativity, but you don't have to let that in. You don't have to drink from the bitter cup just because it's being passed around. You can say no. You can say, not today. Today I will find one thing, just one that lifts me, one thought, one memory, one dream, one breath. And from that single seed of focus, something beautiful can bloom. Your emotions are not fixed. They are not chains. They are signals guiding you toward what you need. And when you change the signal by changing your focus, your emotions will follow. Like flowers turning toward the sun, your heart will lift itself toward the light if you give it something worth rising for. Stop waiting for the world to change. Start with the world within you. Because when you shift how you see, you shift how you feel. And when you shift how you feel, you shift how you show up. And how you show up, my God, how powerful that is, determines what becomes possible. There is a dignity in rising, a quiet nobility in refusing to stay down. And every time you choose to direct your focus towards something greater than your struggle, you honor the power placed within you. You tell the universe, I am not my pain, I am not my past, I am not the noise, I am the one who sees beyond it. You may be tired, we all grow weary on the long roads, but fatigue is not failure. Take your rest, but do not let your eyes close to what is still beautiful. There is music in the laughter of a child. There is grace in the kindness of a stranger. There is redemption in your breath. The proof that you are still here, still in the game, still full of promise. You do not need a perfect life to feel peace. You do not need constant sunshine to feel joy. You need only to look in the right direction, to ask yourself daily, where am I placing my focus? Is it on what lifts or what lowers? Is it on the pain or the possibility? Is it on what you lost or what you learned? And if the answer isn't what you want it to be, change it. You are not a tree rooted and immovable. You are a being of motion, of fire, of flight. You can turn, you can pivot, you can change course, and in doing so you can feel again, you can feel better, you can feel strong, you can feel free. Never let someone else's darkness dim your light. Never let the world's chaos become your inner compass. You were born with wisdom. You were born with resilience, and though the journey may have buried that truth beneath the rubble of circumstance, it is still there, waiting for the moment you shift your focus and say, I remember who I am. Let that remembrance become your revolution. Let it become the turning point, the sacred choice to feel something different by seeing something different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And from that inner change, the world around you cannot help but shift. Change your focus. Change how you feel. And change how you feel. Change your life. There is something sacred about choice, something holy about the moment a soul says no more. Not because it no longer hurts, not because the weight has vanished, but because it is no longer willing to give pain the microphone. It is in that quiet defiance, that gentle uprising of the spirit, where transformation begins. The world may never know the battles you fight silently. It may never applaud your resilience or write songs about your rise, but that does not make your strength any less real. In fact, what is unseen is often what is most powerful, and what happens in the heart is what eventually shapes the world outside of it. Many people walk through life wearing invisible chains, chains made of stories they didn't write, names they didn't choose, memories they didn't deserve, and still they wear them like truth, never questioning whether they belong. But I'm here to tell you that those chains are illusions. You are not bound by what happened. You are not sentenced to relive your lowest moment. You are not obligated to stay small because someone once told you that was all you were allowed to be. You have a right to let go. You have a right to forgive, to move forward, to rewrite the ending. It begins with focus. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If all you see are the doors that closed, you'll miss the ones opening in quiet corners. If all you count are the ways you were hurt, you'll overlook the hands still reaching out to help you. You are not alone, though pain loves to tell you that lie. You are not forgotten, though the world may grow loud and cold. The universe has a memory for those who dare to heal, and it waits, patient and ready, for the moment your eyes rise to meet it again. You must understand this. Healing is not passive. It is not sitting in silence waiting for the ache to pass. It is choosing every single day to direct your focus toward things that nourish you. It is recognizing that your emotions, powerful as they are, do not own you. They visit as they arrive with messages. But you are the host. You decide which thoughts get to stay. You decide what becomes your truth. That is the secret to reclaiming your power. Not by fighting the pain, but by feeding something great. You may have heard that time heals all wounds, but that's only half the truth. Time does not heal what you keep rehearsing in your mind. Time cannot stitch up what you keep picking at. True healing happens when you redirect your focus, not to pretend the wound isn't there, but to give it space to breathe. To focus on love more than loss. To focus on what's within your control instead of what slipped away. No one can do this for you. People can love you, support you, walk beside you, but they cannot reach into your mind and change your focus. That is your work. And what beautiful sacred work it is, because in doing so you teach yourself that you matter, that your peace matters, that your joy is not a frivolous thing, but a compass pointing you home. You do not need to fix everything to feel better. You only need to change your relationship with what is broken, to shift from blame to understanding, from fear to faith, from paralysis to possibility. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments, in decisions, in the breath you take before reacting, in the pause before believing the worst, in the choice to see beauty, even in the midst of pain. There is an art to hope. It is not blind. It is not naive. It is a form of rebellion in a world that feeds on despair. When you choose to focus on what could go right, on what might grow, you are not ignoring reality. You are shaping a new one. You are saying, I see what is, but I also see what could be. That is not weakness. That is strength. That is learned to dance. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to cry, but you are also allowed to rise. Don't let your sadness become your story. Let it be a chapter, not the conclusion. Let it be the soil from which something beautiful can grow. Every tear you've cried has watered a seed inside of you, a seed of compassion, of resilience, of wisdom. Do not waste that pain by focusing only on the wound. Look at what it made you capable of. Sometimes the shift is subtle. You begin by saying thank you for breath, for a sunrise, for one more chance. And slowly the heaviness lifts. Not all at once, but enough for you to move, enough for you to begin. Focus on that movement, on the strength it takes to keep going. There is no shame in starting small. There is power in every step, no matter how slow. You've been told you need to do more, be more, prove yourself, but the most powerful thing you can do is simply be present, to choose what you focus on with intention. That is the doorway to peace, not perfection, not performance, but presence. In this moment, you are enough, you are worthy, you are becoming. Let go of the need to control every outcome. Life is not a straight road. It is a winding path full of surprise, of mystery, of sudden turns that you didn't see coming. But what you can control, what you must control, is your focus. That is your steering wheel. That is your anchor in the storm. And yes, sometimes the storm rages, sometimes the pain is loud and the grief heavy. But even then, you have a choice. You can sit inside the chaos and still choose to focus on your breath, on the space between the waves, on the calm at the center of the cyclone. That calm lives within you. It is not something you find, it is something you uncover by choosing to see it. Your life is not just happening to you, it is happening through you. And what you focus on determines what flows through your life. Focus on fear, and your choices shrink. Focus on love, and they expand. Focus on judgment, and walls rise. Focus on understanding, and bridges are built. You are not just a witness to your life, you are a creator of it, and creation begins with attention. Every moment offers you an invitation to dwell in what drags you down, or rise in what calls you higher. The circumstances may not change, but your experience of them can. That is not fantasy, it is truth. And those who master it live lighter, not because they have less weight, but because they've learned how to carry it differently. Change your focus, and you change how you carry your burdens. You start to see them not as punishments, but as preparation, as the training ground for something greater. You begin to realize that the strength you admire in others was born in the fires of their own transformation, and you too are being shaped, not destroyed. Shaped. Do not rush this process. Do not compare your timeline to another's. What matters is not how fast you heal, but how deeply, not how quickly you rise, but how fully. Let your focus settle on what is real, what is good, what is growing. There is enough decay in the world. Choose to nurture what blooms. The mind is a garden. If you do not tend it, weeds will grow. And weeds are thoughts that say, I'm not enough. I'll never get better. It's too late. But those are lies dressed as truth. You must become the gardener. Pull those weeds, plant new seeds, water them daily with focus, with truth, with compassion, and in time, that garden will feed you. It's easy to focus on what you lack, but scarcity is a trick. There is abundance waiting behind the curtain of your attention. You've got love inside of you, laughter waiting to be released. ideas waiting to be born, healing waiting to happen. Don't let your focus live in the shadows when the light is just one thought away. You've walked through fire. You've survived nights you thought would break you, and still you are here. Still, your heart beats with purpose. That means something. That means there is more ahead, more joy, more love, more becoming, but you must choose to see it. You must believe it before you feel it. You must focus on it before it appears. That is faith. That is focus. That is the key to living not just a life of survival, but of significance. The pain may have been loud, but let your peace be louder. The failure may have stung, but let your comeback be sweeter. The heartbreak may have broken you open, but let it make room for something better. When the mind wanders to fear, bring it back to truth. When it drifts to worry, bring it back to now. When it clings to what was, bring it back to what is. This is the practice. This is the path. And with every return to focus, you get stronger. So choose your focus with care. Let it be aligned with your values. Let it mirror your highest self. Let it pull you upward even when the weight tries to hold you down. You were never meant to live in the mud. You were meant to rise, to evolve, to shine. Focus is not just about what you see, it is about how you see. A broken road can lead to beautiful places. A wounded heart can still love deeply. A lost season can become the foundation of your greatest chapter, but only if you look through eyes of grace. What you focus on, you feel. What you feel, you live. And what you live, you become. So ask yourself each day, what story am I telling? What direction am I facing? What voice am I amplifying? Then answer with your focus. Choose the narrative that heals. Choose the truth that uplifts. Choose the voice that reminds you who you are. And never forget, you are the author now. You get to decide how the next chapter unfolds. It starts not with a grand act, but with a single choice. To shift your gaze, lift your heart, and remember that freedom begins the moment you change your focus. There will always be noise. The outside world is full of it, buzzing with opinions, expectations, comparisons, criticisms. But inside you, there is a silence deeper than any noise, a stillness more powerful than any storm. That stillness is not empty. It is full of knowing. And when you change your focus and listen to that quiet voice within, it will tell you truths the world has forgotten. It will remind you that you are not here merely to exist, but to live. Not just to breathe, but to expand. Not only to survive, but to awaken something within that has been waiting, aching to be seen. That voice will not shout. It will not compete with the chaos. You must come to it gently, by quieting your mind and shifting your gaze inward. The more you listen, the louder it becomes. Not in volume but in clarity. It will tell you that your worth is not something you earn, that your dreams are not foolish, that your pain is not a punishment, but a passage. And it will say again and again, what you focus on will either anchor you or set you free. There is a dangerous comfort in focusing on what's wrong. It gives us certainty, a twisted kind of safety. If we expect disappointment, we feel prepared. If we focus on pain, we avoid the risk of joy. But the truth is, we were not built for smallness. We were made for movement, for growth, for the continual unfolding of what is possible. You must be willing to let go of the story that says, this is all I will ever be, because that story is a cage. And you, beautiful soul, are the key. Even the most brilliant mind becomes dull when focused on fear. Even the strongest heart loses rhythm when trapped in resentment. The shift you need is not in your circumstances, it is in your perception. When you wake each day, you are given a choice to see the same things in the same way or to see them differently. To see opportunity in discomfort, to see strength in struggle, to see yourself not as the sum of your wounds, but as the architect of your healing. Yes, pain has shaped you, but so has courage, so has kindness, so has every single time you stood back up. Focus on that. Focus on your becoming. You are still becoming, still blooming, still unfolding into something this world needs. Do not withhold your light because you are afraid of your shadow. Even the moon, half lit, commands the tides. Even a flicker in the dark is enough to guide someone home. When you walk into a room, you bring energy with you. That energy is not defined by your clothes, your past, your accomplishments. It is defined by your focus. A person focused on fear radiates unease. A person focused on gratitude glows. That is not mysticism. It is neuroscience. It is biology. It is truth wrapped in wonder. You are a transmitter, and what you transmit begins with what you hold in your attention. So many people walk around asking, why don't I feel better? And the answer often is this: because you are staring at what hurts instead of what heals, because you are rehearsing old wounds instead of practicing new strength, because you have given your power away to thoughts that do not deserve you. You are allowed to change that. You are allowed to pivot right now, in this breath. You do not have to wait for some grand sign or perfect moment. The sign is the ache in your heart that wants something more. The moment is now. Change doesn't always begin with action. Sometimes it begins with a question. What if I'm not broken? What if this isn't the end? What if something better is already making its way to me? Those questions are not naive. They are revolutionary. They crack open the walls you've built and let the light back in. They shift your mind from despair to curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of all healing. There is no shame in having fallen. The shame would be in staying down when you have legs to stand. But standing begins in the mind, in focusing on your capacity rather than your collapse, in recognizing that falling did not destroy you. It revealed to you what must be rebuilt. And now you know. Now you are wiser, stronger, not because you avoided the fire, but because you passed through it. Let your focus be a compass, not a chain. Let it guide you toward who you want to become, not what you've been told you are, not what fear has whispered, but what your soul knows. Deep down beyond the noise, you know what you are capable of. You know what you were made for. And if that knowing feels distant, change what you're focusing on. Feed that part of you. Starve the rest. Do not underestimate the power of one choice. One thought. One shift. A single moment of clarity can unravel years of confusion. A single change in focus can redirect a lifetime. It is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing what is useful, what is true, what is kind, and those things, when focused on, become stronger. They become habits. They become your new normal. There is a softness in strength that most people miss. They confuse hardness with power, but true strength is flexible. It bends, it yields, it adapts, and it is born from a focus on what builds, not what breaks. When you begin to truly focus on resilience, you realize it is not about being untouched by pain. It is about letting pain pass through you and leave you more open, not more closed. It is about letting the scar remind you of what you survived, not what you lost. And isn't that beautiful? That you can choose to look at your life and see grace instead of grievance. That you can focus on your breath and feel awe instead of anxiety. That you can look in the mirror and see potential instead of proof of failure. This is not delusion. It is decision. It is the art of intentional living, and it is available to you always, even when you are tired, especially when you are tired, because fatigue is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal, a call to redirect your focus from doing to being, from performing to existing, from striving to simply allowing. And in that rest, you find renewal, not because the world changed, but because your focus did. The greatest battles are often fought in silence, in the privacy of our own thoughts. That is where victory begins, not when you conquer the world, but when you conquer the voice that says, you can't. That voice is not your enemy. It is your old programming, your old fear, your old lens. Thank it for trying to protect you, and then choose a new focus, one rooted in truth, in hope, in your highest self. You deserve to feel good. That is not selfish. That is not naive. It is your birthright, and the path to that feeling does not lie in controlling the uncontrollable. It lies in guiding your gaze. Where are you looking? At what failed, or at what's possible now? At what hurt you, or at what it taught you? At what was taken, or at what you still hold? There is always something to be grateful for. Always. Even in pain, gratitude can exist. Not in denial of the pain, but in defiance of it. You can say, this hurts, but I am still here. This is hard, but I have not given up. I am still breathing. I am still trying. I am still choosing. That choice is power. That focus is transformation. You do not need the world's permission to change. You do not need anyone's approval to feel better. You need only to listen to the whisper within you that says, You were made for more. Not more material, not more status, but more aliveness, more presence, more peace. And you get there by changing what you feed with your focus. Think of your attention like sunlight. Whatever it lands on will grow. Focus on lack and you'll feel empty. Focus on love and you'll feel full. Focus on resentment and your heart will close. Focus on forgiveness and it will open. And what an incredible thing it is to realize you control the direction of that light. You are the sun. You are the source. The world reflects back what you project outward. So what will you project? What will you choose to see? What will you build with your focus today? Every masterpiece begins in the mind. Every great journey starts with the decision to take one step. Every deep love starts with attention. And every healing begins with focus. Focus on what matters. Focus on what is real. Focus on what brings you home to yourself. There are no wasted days when you are focused on becoming. No wrong turns when you are learning. No shame in stumbling when your gaze is on growth. And even in the darkest night, when the way ahead is not clear, you can look within, and there, in the quiet, find a spark. And if you feed that spark with faith, with love, with courage, it becomes a flame, a light that guides not only you, but others too. You were not meant to live in shadow. You were meant to shine, but the shine does not begin with applause or recognition. It begins with attention, with the simple, daily, radical act of choosing where you place your focus. So let this be your revolution. Let this be your new beginning. Not because everything outside you has changed, but because you have decided, at last, to change what you see. And in doing so, you will change how you feel. And in changing how you feel, you will change everything. Sometimes the most courageous act is not climbing a mountain or facing a crowd. Sometimes it is simply waking up and deciding to see yourself with gentler eyes, to look in the mirror and refuse to tally your flaws, to reject the old habit of shrinking yourself down to fit into boxes built by others. It is brave to choose compassion over criticism, to shift your focus from what's missing to what remains, from who left to who stayed, from what failed to what endured. There is no weakness in this softness. There is quiet power, a power that grows not from force, but from grace. You must understand your feelings follow your focus. This is not just sentiment, it is the science of spirit. When you focus on rejection, you feel unworthy. When you focus on scarcity, you feel desperate. But when you focus on how far you've come, even if the road is long, you feel progress. When you focus on the people who truly love you, even if they are few, you feel abundance. When you focus on your breath, your beating heart, your unbroken will, you feel alive, not perfect, not complete, but alive. And that is the first step to anything sacred. We are taught to focus on winning, achieving, being seen. But what if you focused instead on alignment, on joy, on peace that doesn't need performance? You could win every accolade and still feel hollow if your focus is on external validation. You could have thousands cheering for you, and yet, if you cannot look within and applaud your own courage, none of it will land. You must decide what kind of life you want to feel, not just what it looks like on the outside, but what it feels like in the quiet hours. Focus on the focus on the soul. There are people who live their whole lives reacting, pulled this way and that by what happens to them, by what others say, by what goes wrong. But you are not a puppet. You are not a product of randomness. You are a creator. You have the divine ability to choose your lens, and that lens changes the entire world. Through bitterness, the world is harsh. Through wonder, the world is a miracle. Through shame, the world is a judgment. But through love, the kind you give to yourself first, the world becomes a place where healing can happen, where growth can bloom in even the hardest soil. And do not be discouraged if your focus wavers. It will. You are human. Your mind will drift. Your emotions will swell. And the old patterns will try to pull you back. But that is not failure. That is the practice. To return again and again to what matters. To choose again, even when it feels futile. Every time you bring your focus back to what is good, what is possible, what is real, you strengthen that muscle. You build resilience. And eventually, that becomes your nature. Not to avoid pain, but to meet it with a gaze that is stronger than despair. If you've ever walked through heartbreak, then you know the mind's temptation to loop, to replay what went wrong, to analyze every word, to search for reasons in the rubble. But healing never lives in the wreckage. Healing lives in the direction forward. The mind may cry out for closure, for clarity, for apology, but the heart only needs one thing: a new focus. Not to erase the pain, but to rise above it. Not to forget what happened, but to remember who you are beyond the wound. That shift is your liberation. Sometimes the shift is small: a breath before you speak, a pause before you react, a glance at the sky before diving into your to-do list. But those small shifts create seismic changes. They teach your nervous system a new rhythm. They retrain your mind to seek balance. They invite your spirit to rest in the present, instead of being dragged by the past or hunted by the future. This is where peace begins, not with control but with conscious focus. You will be tested. There will be voices around you, some loud, some subtle, that try to redirect your focus toward fear, toward judgment, toward separation. But your job is to return to truth. Your truth, not the truth of the news cycle, or the critic's eye, or the angry crowd. Your truth is deep. It lives in your breath, in your belly, in the still place beneath your thoughts. And it says you are more than your worst day. You are more than your greatest fear. You are a vessel for light, and wherever you place your focus, that light will follow. So take that light into your relationship. Focus on what you can give instead of what you lack. Focus on listening instead of proving. Focus on understanding rather than winning. The way we feel about others is deeply entangled with what we choose to see in them. Focus on their kindness, and your heart softens. Focus on their flaws and your heart hardens. But you are the one doing the focusing. And that means you can choose softness. You can choose love. You can choose the perspective that creates connection, not division. This is not just spiritual. It is deeply practical. Focus on solutions instead of problems, and suddenly your creativity awakens. Focus on opportunities instead of obstacles, and doors appear where there were once only walls. Focus on what you can control instead of what you cannot, and your anxiety begins to melt into action. Life responds not to the loudest complaint, but to the quietest shift in attention. Even your body responds. When you focus on stress, your shoulders tighten, your breath shortens, your heart races. But when you focus on stillness, your muscles loosen, your lungs expand, your heart slows. This is not imagination, it is biology. Your entire system follows your mind, and your mind follows your focus. So choose wisely, not perfectly, not with pressure, but with care. Because every moment is a brushstroke in the masterpiece that is your life. There will be people who misunderstand you when you change, who think your optimism is avoidance, who mistake your peace for passivity. Let them. Their focus is not your responsibility. You do not owe anyone your pain to prove your depth. You do not have to stay and struggle to be seen as strong. Your light is not a betrayal of the dark you've walked through. It is evidence that you've emerged. And the more you focus on growth, the more others will be invited to do the same. Let your focus be a prayer, a quiet declaration, that you are not at the mercy of the world's chaos, that you are an agent of peace, a cultivator of joy, a witness to grace. Let it be your silent revolution, to walk through fire and still believe in beauty, to face disappointment and still expect miracles, to hold grief in one hand and gratitude in the other, and to keep walking, heart open, eyes forward. And when the voices inside get loud again, because they will, don't fight them, don't judge them, just shift. Focus on your breath, on the warmth in your chest, on the memory of someone who loved you just as you are, on the tree outside your window that keeps reaching toward the sky, season after season, without needing permission. Nature does not question its purpose, nor should you. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to have it all figured out. You are here to feel, to live, to be. And the direction of that becoming will always, always be determined by your focus, not by fate, not by luck, not even by talent, but by the quiet, repeated choice to turn your gaze toward the light. So do it now, and again, until it becomes who you are.